I'd like to try a different kind of a strategy with you right now. I'd like everybody to think about a time when you were either in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, graduate school, in-service training, or any other formal learning environment when you had to take a course that you did not want to because you knew you were going to hate it. And you knew you were going to hate it, but you had to take it anyway. You started to take the course, and before it was over, something wonderful happened, and you discovered that you really loved it. Now, this doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to most of us. You think you're going to hate it, you go into this course wanting to hate it, expecting to hate it, but something happens before it's over, and you end up loving it. And I'd just like you to write down two things. One, the name of the course, and two, what the teacher did to change your mind. So could everybody do that, please? Okay, let's hear some names of courses. Physics. Meteorology. If you can't spell it, you can abbreviate it. We're writing these down. Someone else. Humanities. Calculus. Chemistry. What was that? I didn't hear it. Physical education. Anyone else? Speech. Somebody else. What was it? Statistics. Now, here's my experience. Most people think they're going to hate statistics, but they hate it even more. I have taught at 3 universities, and at the university club where faculty eat, statistic teachers eat by themselves because we're afraid they might talk. So you must have had an incredible statistic teacher if he or she changed your mind. It's a wonderful teacher. It must have been a wonderful teacher. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anybody from back there? Did we get them all? Propositional logic. I can't even say it. Propositional logic. Anyone else back here? We don't want to leave you guys out. Special education law. I think that's a pretty good list. Okay, can I have that list, please? We're going to make one more list. This is the list of what the teacher did. What was that? I didn't.
Somebody sneezed.
Oh, someone sneezed. I've been sitting over there too long. The list of what the teacher did to change your mind. I'm going to start with statistics. Amy? Okay. This was what we thought we'd hate, but we ended up loving. Okay. What? You did. I'll re-put it back on. I'm not walking over there right now. What did the teacher do to change your mind? Probability of blue M&Ms. So she made it fun. Okay, someone else. What did the teacher do? Yes. So what did the teacher do? She made it accessible. Yeah. She made you feel like you could be successful. Made success, I call that making success attainable. Someone else, what did the teacher do? Who had phys ed? What did the teacher do?
Took out a little bit of the competitiveness, so I wasn't worried about
less competitive, not afraid to look bad. Anyone else? Who had chemistry? Oh, go ahead. What was yours?
Mine was my high school humanities class, and when we had it right after lunch, and he acknowledged that we were often not as motivated at that time. He let us when we were studying class when we were thinking something was, but
He acknowledged your needs. He met your needs. Okay, who had chemistry? Who had chemistry? Someone had chemistry. You're not admitting it. Oh, she left? You can do chemistry? No, you got the question right now? Okay.
I know what it is. He made it easy for me.
Made it attainable, possible. Anyone else? Yeah.
Teacher was very personable and treated us with respect.
Treated you with respect, was personable. Anyone else? Yes.
The class was speech, and everyone was terrified to stand up in front of everyone. And so the rule was, you had 2 minutes to talk, but you talk about anything you want. So there were no rules. It was just they could get you out in front so that you could.
So the fear was lessened, reduced fear, basically. Okay, I'm going to give two that weren't mentioned and ask if this applied to your teachers that really changed your mind, because I find these to be the two critical ones. Having energy and enthusiasm for what the teacher taught. Would you consider those important? Okay, so I'm going to take that list from you too. Thank you so much. Now, what I'd like to talk about for my segment is how to maintain our own energy, how to keep ourselves enthusiastic, because I find that the energy we have within ourselves translates to the energy students have. And when we have energy, they're more likely to. How would you have felt if this is how I started this morning? Today we're going to talk about motivation, and it's really fascinating. Is everybody ready? What would you have said? What's that? I did start that way? I would be surprised if half of you said, I got to get out of here. So let's look at how we keep our own energy alive in the face of students who seem to drain it from us. The first question I'm going to ask is, why are you a teacher? And I'm using the word teacher generically instead of job description. If you work with children, then you are a teacher. Everybody in this room is a teacher by my definition. And I consider it the most noble and important job on earth, as I said this morning. Why do you do it? How many of you are in this to make money? Have you discovered you made a bad choice? How many of you do it for the respect of the community? Do you walk down the street and people say, that's a teacher, get her autograph? How about for the power you have to make important decisions about education? Like whether or not you'll have standardized testing in your school. Whether or not you'll have a curriculum that meets what you think is important to teach. If we ask professionals, what are the 3 most important things you get out of your profession? Often, money, recognition, and power are mentioned. We get none of them. Now, I'd like to show you something kind of interesting. How many people in this room have ever been to another country and seen the way teachers are treated by the country? All right, what country were you in? Japan. How are teachers treated in Japan?
Much more respected.
Much more? I'd say even much more than much more. Well, I'm going to talk about Japan in a few minutes. John, is it? Tom, I'm sorry, I can hardly read that. We'll have to compare notes. What country are you in?
France.
How are teachers treated in France by the community?
More as professionals.
Do they get respect? Are they looked up to? Another country?
Spain.
Where? Spain. No hablo español. How are they treated in Spain?
Well, I was in 11th grade, and that's not what I was worried about. So,
How were teachers treated in Spain by the community?
well,
Were they respected?
yeah, I mean, and
Were they honored?
by the students, then we respected our teachers when I was in school. I mean, the students.
They were respected, and how about by the parents?
I guess it would be.
You don't remember, you didn't see it from that perspective. Okay, what country?
Ukraine.
Ukraine. How are teachers treated in Ukraine?
Respected.
Respected, loved,
Does the same.
same country. We have someone from Iran here. Where are you? She still here? No, can't find. Oh, how are teachers treated in Iran?
Actually, when you enter the room, you stand up.
Everyone stands up. A lot of respect. Are you getting a picture here? Guess what country respects its teachers the least? The United States. Tell me how we can expect students to come to our classrooms and show us respect when the community doesn't even respect us. When parents don't respect us. In every country I've been in several countries all over the world, every country respects its teachers more than America does. How can we educate our children? Well, the problem is, how can we teach without respect? We at least have to respect ourselves. We have to find the energy to respect ourselves. I was in Japan. How many of you have been to Japan? The word for teacher in Japan is sensei. It means close to God. And I visited a school in Tokyo that had 3,000 students. And every teacher had their own copy machine. And I said to the principal, how can you afford this? He said, we have no choice. Sometimes teachers have to make copies. I said, you know, you're right. He said, don't American teachers have copy machines in their offices? I said, offices? What are you talking about? I said, every school has one, and sometimes it works. And he looked at me with contempt, and he said, I bet doctors and lawyers have copy machines in their offices. I said, they do. He said, that's what's wrong with America. You have the wrong priorities. Who's more important, doctors and lawyers or teachers? And first year, teachers make more money in Japan than doctors and lawyers because they're considered more important. So how do we find the energy within ourselves to find the respect we need to teach when we live in a community that looks at us the way it does in America? That's a hard question. And there's one answer. There's only one answer I can think of. It's to remember why you go to school every day. And to wake up in the morning and say it to yourself. And why do we go to school every day? To change the lives of children. And if we can remember we're there to change the lives of children, we can never lose our energy. Because there's nothing on earth more noble, more important than changing the lives of children. We're the ones that get to do that. Sometimes we forget. I remember once waking up after being on tour. Al and I both sometimes will go on these extended tours. I used to do 10 days in a row sometimes. Al did too. We would call each other and talk about how tired we were. Sometimes I wouldn't even go home for the 2 days between the 5 days and 5 days because California's too far away. So I remember once being on the road, doing 5 days of training, spending the weekend on the road somewhere, I don't even remember where, 5 more days of training, and waking up in a hotel in Indianapolis. And I was so tired. All I wanted to do was go home. And I did something I almost never do anymore. As you get older, you learn not to do this. But I looked at my watch, and I said, in only 8 hours, I'll be on an airplane. Now, if you look at your watch and say only 8 hours or only 6 hours, you throw your life away. And as you get older, you don't have that much life to throw away. So you want to save as much of it as you can and make every moment count, even if they're miserable, is better than none. And some people know what I'm talking about. But I said, only 8 more hours and I'll be on a plane. I said, I'm so tired, I'm so sick of this. How many of you ever teach the same thing 5 periods in a row? Do you ever do this? Don't you hate it after a while? Do you ever forget who you said what to? And don't you hate certain things you keep saying over and over again? Say, I never want to say these words again. And then I said to myself, I don't care if I'm good today or funny today or energetic today. Who cares? I just want to go home. Every single teacher has a bad day sometimes. Today's going to be mine. How many of you have ever had a day when you were miserable in the classroom or miserable at your job? Well, I deserve one too. Why can't I have one? So I went to my session, and I'm thinking, oh, God, I just want to get home. And a woman comes to me, and she says, can I talk to you for a minute, Dr. Curwin? And in my mind, I said, what do you want? But I said, yes. And I'm thinking, I just want to get out of here. Please don't ask me some stupid, boring question that I've heard 1,000,000 times, because I can't take it anymore. And she said, I just want you to know that my daughter heard you talk last year. And she said you were wonderful. And my school only provides 1 in-service and a whole career that they'll pay for. So I decided to come and hear you. And I live in Chicago, so I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to drive here, but I know it's going to be worth it. This is my bad day, right? So I said to her, you have just woken me up and given me the most wonderful of all gifts, and I'm going to take you to lunch to show my appreciation. She said, what did I do? I said, I'll tell you at lunch. She hit me right aside my head, and woke me up because I wasn't there for me. I was there for the audience. Sometimes it's so hard to remember that. So we go to lunch, and I explained to her what she did for me. And she says, I hate to be rude, Dr. Curwin, but you still don't get it. I said, what do you mean? I get it. Didn't I just explain it to you? She said, no, you don't get it. You're a mile away. She said, I hope today's wonderful today. So far, I've had a good morning. I hope today's a wonderful day. But you're not here for me. You're here for my students. And I'm not here for me either. I'm here for my students. They're the ones that we come for. And if you keep thinking you're here for me and not for my students, then you still haven't got it. Someone has to care about the kids, and that has to be us. So she hit me inside the head twice. And when I do seminars now, I love audiences. I mean, I really come alive. But I see myself, when I walk into this room, I say to myself, how many kids' lives will change because you and me can connect and get together? That's what I ask myself when I walk in here. I have to have energy. I have to care. It wakens every corpuscle within me because I keep thinking, how many children's lives will change because we come together? Isn't that fabulous? How many children will change because when you wake up in the morning, you're there for the kids and you can remember it? And just think of their lives. People say to me, I only have a kid 1 hour a day. What difference can I make? Or I only have a kid one day, for 6 hours, then they go home to misery and lives that are so unbearable. How many people in this room have ever made a home visit? Well, let me tell you, everyone should make one because it wakes you up. You go to a home visit thinking, I'm going to straighten this kid out. And you leave saying, how thankful my kids don't live like that. How can I make a difference when I have them for an hour a day or 2 hours a day or 5 hours a day when they live like that? And my answer is the same. 1 hour a day that's really positive and wonderful is better than none. And every good day is one less bad one. And what if it is only 1 hour a day? Isn't that better than not having any? If you wake up in the morning and you have a choice, a day of misery or having 1 hour where I can feel like I'm accomplishing something and feel good about myself, which would you take? What if it's only 10 minutes? Isn't that still better than none? Let's forget about purpose and goal and the future. Let's forget about the fact that we have to accomplish something. Isn't just living 1 good hour better than none, even if nothing is accomplished? For some of these kids' lives, having a good place for an hour is the reason they come to school. It's the safest place they have. Maybe your classroom is the best moment they'll ever have in their entire life. Why take it away from them? Now, the second thing I want to look at for how we can maintain our energy is to look at the list that you just came up with. First, I'm going to read the list of courses. Physics, meteorology, humanities, calculus, chemistry, physical education, speech, statistics revived, propositional logic, and special education law. That does not sound like the curriculum from heaven. It sounds like it comes from the other place. How many of you, if you had to take all these courses one semester, would like it? But we learn 2 things from this list. We learn, number 1, there's no such thing as a course that can't be made motivating. It's never the course. It's always the way that it's taught. He gave you so many great ideas for making classes come alive. But it's never the course you teach. If people say, well, I teach something the kids don't like, it just isn't true. Every course can be liked. Depends how it's taught. How many of you have kids that come to your class with a bad attitude? Well, I have news for you, and it's great news. Attitudes change. Every course listed on this piece of paper was a course you thought you'd hate, but the teacher did something to change your mind. Everyone's mind can change. It depends on how we do it. So let's look at the list of how you change kids' minds. Rubrics, curriculum mapping, standards. Oh, that's the wrong list. I'm so sorry. My mistake. Can anybody tell me what different rubrics make, standards make, curriculum makes to a kid that doesn't care? What if you have the best rubrics on earth, but the kid doesn't care? What difference do they make? How many of you have ever heard kids over talking about which teacher to take? And one kid says, you know, I take Mrs. Jones. She has the best rubrics in school. And the other kid says, oh, no, take Mrs. Smith. Her curriculum is aligned. How much energy do we spend on things that kids don't care about if they're not motivated and have hope? In fact, without hope, without motivation, nothing else matters. 90% of our energy is not about standards, it's about getting kids to want to learn. Because if they don't want to learn, I don't care what your standards are, they're inappropriate because no one cares. Now, even before I read these to you, I have discovered there are 3 areas that every single person mentions, one of the 3, sometimes more, when they say how a teacher changed their mind. It's either personal relationship, being able to be successful, or energy. Those are the areas. I'll say them again. Personal connection, personal involvement, the ability to be successful, and energy. That's what changes people's mind about a course. Let's see if these fall into those categories. Made it accessible, took out the competitiveness, acknowledged needs, made it easy, which I think isn't really so much easy. My interpretation is made it possible to be successful. Teacher was personable and respectful. Reduced fear, had energy and enthusiasm. That's how we do it. I'd like to tell you about one thing that happened to me to show you how this works. Between my junior and senior year of college, my advisor said I have to take 1 biological science in order to graduate. I was 1 short. So I did what most people do when you have to take a course that you know you're going to hate. I took it in summer school. How many of you have taken a course in summer school to get it out of the way? So I went to the University of Massachusetts, and I'm there this summer, and I went around asking everybody 2 questions. Anyone know what they are? What is it? Who's the easiest teacher, and what's the easiest course? Everybody said, take entomology. Entomology. Does anyone know what that is? Study of insects. I said, I'm not studying insects for a whole summer, especially because it started at 7:30 in the morning, in the summer. And they said, if you want an A, you will, so I took it. So I ended up sitting in the back of the room. This is a lecture hall that had 200 or 300 students in it. I was so far back that if I was back even another foot, I would have been in another building. And I had this look on my face. You ever have this look in a class? Had my coffee, and the professor was late. What did everybody ask? Anyone know? Anyone remember? What rank is he? Do you remember college? That if he's an assistant professor, it's 5 minutes, an associate is 10 minutes, a full professor, 15 minutes? Ever hear something? How many of you ever heard that the rank of the professor determines how long you wait? Okay, it's not true. It's an urban myth. I've been to Singapore and Japan. They think the same thing, and it's not true there either. Because this is college. You can come and go anytime you want. Nobody gives a damn. You walk in, you walk out. In college, if you don't come to class, the professors don't call your house. They don't call your mother, your son was late today. It's a myth. I've taught at 3 universities. No one ever cares. You come, you don't come. Who cares? It's not my job. But anyway, somebody said, we can go. And because somebody said that, everyone thought they could go. It's like unbelievable how this works. So we all gather our things, and the professor walks in, and we all go, oh, no. And he's carrying with him a train of little red wagons. Do you remember radio flyer wagons? Yeah. Anyone still have one? Aren't they cool? I wish I could get one. They're probably worth money now. Anyway, each car is filled with boxes about the size of Happy Meals, and he had about maybe 200 boxes. But Happy Meals hadn't even been invented yet, so guess what was in them? Bugs. They were all preserved, none alive, which was a good thing. And he gave a box to every student. And he said, these are yours, and you can do anything you want with them. I'll be back in 20 minutes. And leaves. It's 8 o'clock in the morning now. I have a box of bugs, and I'm supposed to know what to do with them. I don't know what to do with them. The girls in front of me, 2 girls in front of me, did the most disgusting thing that any human could ever do. Guesses? Oh, worse than eating them. Much worse. They took notes. Have you ever been in a class where someone took notes and you didn't know what to write? So I leaned over their desk to see what they were writing, and they covered their papers. That was disgusting. Some of the students were ripping them apart carefully and trading parts and building new bugs. I didn't know what to do, and so there's a young lady sitting next to me. We raced us. I'd reach in and pull out a beetle, and I go, nyeh. She pulled out a bee, and she went, yep, I win. So the professor comes back. He says, can anybody tell me one thing you learned? Well, I happen to be a very sarcastic person. I will tell you, I'm extremely sarcastic. I grew up in the East Coast, and for me, sarcasm is a way of life. Anybody here grew up in the East Coast? Where'd you grow up?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia is the most sarcastic city on earth. It's even worse than Boston. In Philadelphia, they boo their teams when they win. It's true. So I said sarcastically, I learned something amazing. Bugs that fly are faster than bugs that crawl. And my teacher said, very good, and writes on the board. And I went, what? That's good? And people started saying things. And before the end of the period, everything anyone could ever discuss about entomology was on that board. And I said to the girl I went out with as I left, how did this get so good? I thought it was so stupid. And I ended up loving entomology because of the energy of the teacher. I knew I could be successful, and I just loved the way it was taught. I became an entomology minor. I was an English major, entomology minor. My mother said, what am I going to do with that? I said, I'm going to write novels about bugs. So I took entomology 2, and the professor comes in, and he goes, blah, 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 phylum, blah, 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 species. And I dropped it in one day and took Shakespeare, which turned out not to be any better. But the point is, if you want to have your kids have energy, you need to have energy yourself. And you need to do the kinds of things that give kids energy, because energy is contagious. We pay the people in our society the most money who can give us energy for just 2 hours. Baseball players, entertainers, actors, singers. Because energy is so precious. Teachers have to do it 180 days a year. Nobody can do it that much unless we have the energy within ourselves. Now I want to do one last strategy with you. I'm going to come by and I'm going to ask a number of you a question, and I want you to answer it as if you were a student. So the first thing I want you to do is to imagine that you're a student in the course that you teach. If you're a counselor, pick a course that you'd like to teach. And if you're an administrator, pick a course that you once taught. But everybody have a course in mind. And I'm going to come by and ask you, why do I have to learn this? And I want you to give me your reason why you think, as me, as one of your students, has to learn this. So you're the teacher, I'm the student. I'm going to say, why do I have to learn this? And you're going to give me your best answer. And I'm going to start with you. Well, let me start over here with you. Okay? Why do I have to learn this? Too long. Why do I have to learn this? So I can balance my checkbook. Why do I have to learn this?
So you can read your contract.
So I can read my contract. Why do I have to learn this?
To write means that you understand what you read.
So I can learn to understand what I read? Is that what, okay? Why do I have to learn this?
So you can appreciate everything you see.
So I can appreciate everything I see. Why do I have to learn this?
To communicate with people around the world.
To communicate with people around the world? Why do I have to learn this? So I can be successful. Why do I have to learn this? So I can get along with others. Why do I have to learn this? So I can shop at the grocery store. Why do I have to learn this?
So you can know how to fix your car.
So I can know how to fix my car. I'll make you the last one. Why do I have to learn this?
To get good at problem solving.
To get good at problem solving. I'm going to ask a very harsh question. Did anybody hear anything that would make you say, that's the teacher I want? No one. I didn't either. And the reason is, you all answered the wrong question. You didn't answer the question, why do I have to learn it? You answered the question, why do you have to teach it? And those are different questions. You told me an adult answer of why you need to do it, not a child answer of why I need to receive it. And that's because children don't live in the future. Children live in the present. Children don't understand the concept of this is something you'll need in your future. I'm not sure they ever did, but they don't now more than ever. Has anybody in this room ever seen a child, by that I mean under 18, downloading into a website, hitting the icon and going to a website? Has anyone ever seen a kid do it? Okay, what does the kid say while they're doing it? What do they say? Every kid that says the same thing. What are they saying? What is it? It's, who said that? It's slow. I can't believe how long this is taking. This seems to be taking, Mom, Dad, we need a new computer. This is so slow. So slow. How long does it take? Has anyone ever timed it? It's between 25 to 50 seconds, basically. How many of you ever wrote a term paper when you were in high school? All right, where did you get your information? The library. How long did it take you to get to the library? 45 minutes, an hour, something like that? And when you got to the library, what did you have to do? You had to go find the book, so you had to go to the card catalog and find the book. Then when you got the book, what did you have to do? Read it. And what sometimes was the information, there was no information in the book, you had to find another book? Okay, so how long did it take you to write a term paper when you were in high school or even middle school? It took you days, weeks, sometimes a month. But kids today can access anything on earth, from between 25 to 50 seconds, and they say it's slow. Does that tell you something about the mindset of children? My first computer was an Apple IIe. Anyone start with an Apple II or an Apple IIe? Do you remember how long that took? We didn't even have the internet then, but you put in a program and you go out and have dinner, go dancing, maybe see a movie, come home, have company, do the dishes, and now you're almost ready to get some work done. But 50 seconds to access anything on earth is considered slow by today's kids. So the answers we have to have when people say, why do I have to learn this, can't come into the future. They have to talk about the present. Meaning, what do I get out of this course while I'm learning it, not afterward when it benefits me? The answer I'm going to show you isn't just for what we say to children, it's what we say to ourselves, so that we have the energy to teach it. Because if you can't answer this honestly, you'll never be successful teaching the class. All right, what's your name? Luke. Luke, I'm going to have you be a student of mine and say, why do I have to learn this? Let's see how this answer works. Go ahead.
Why do I have to learn this?
Why do you have to learn this? Because it's fabulous. And because you're going to love it the same way I love it. And I guarantee you this is going to be one of the best courses you've ever taken. That's why. How's that sound? Okay, now, supposing Luke is skeptical, he says, yeah, what makes you think you're so great? Or something like that. I'm going to say, I bet you've had boring teachers before, haven't you? Yeah. I bet you've had some miserable classes before, haven't you? Yeah. This isn't going to be one of them. And you just have to wait and see, don't you? Won't it be fun to find out if I'm right? Wouldn't you rather I'm right than I'm wrong? Yeah. Wouldn't it be more fun for you if it's a good course? Yeah. Just wait. Isn't that better than, well, you need it to learn to sign checks. You'll need it for your future. You'll need it to be able to do this or that. What kids need to know is that the energy you have to give them, they will feel within the classroom instead of in their future. Now, that's not why you teach it. I'm not saying that the goals are unimportant. I'm saying that's not how you reach kids to motivate them. Well, I'm going to have to go in a minute, so I'd like to end with one last story. I'm going to ask that nobody talk during this story and nobody leave or get up during this story because this story is very important to me, and I don't want anyone being disturbed hearing it. This to me sums up everything there is to say about motivating children. A few years ago, I was in Virginia, and a woman said to me, I need to talk to you, it's very important, but it's private. So we went outside during a break, and she said, I'm a third grade teacher. And 7 years ago, I had a student that I hated. I absolutely hated this kid. I used to take each of my students for lunch individually in the school cafeteria to get to know them, but I didn't have lunch with him because I didn't like it. Didn't like him at all, didn't want to be with him. I made him sit in the back of the room. And one of my friends said to me, you know something? You have every right not to like him. No one likes all their students. But you have to have lunch with him. You can't do that. That's just wrong. So I had lunch with him. And it turned out in a social environment, I liked him. In fact, I found him to be quite friendly, and it was fun. And by the end of the year, he became one of my favorite students. That was 7 years ago. But a couple weeks ago, his dad called me. He said he'd been looking for me. So I got on the phone. He said, I'm looking for my son's third grade teacher of 7 years ago, and he mentioned my name. I said, that's me. He said, I'm so glad I found you. I've been looking for you. You might not know this, but my son was very sick in school, and he hated school. But your class he loved. It was the only class he really, really got something out of. He not only learned how to read, but he learned to love to read. One day he came home from work early, and he was reading a book when his favorite television show was on. I said, how come you're not watching your show? He said, oh, Dad, this book is really great. Will you read it with me? We're doing it in school. And at dinner time, we didn't do dinner. We did third grade all over again. I went through third grade twice, once for me and once with him. If you did a game, we played the game. If you did an activity, we did the activity. If you did a lesson, we did the lesson. He said, I totally lived third grade. Well, a month ago, my son died. And in the hospital, he took my hand, and he made me promise that I would find you and tell you how much he loved you. I just want you to know, very few teachers like my son, but you did. And for him, it was the most important year of his life. So thank you so much. Not only did my son love you, but I do too. And I think about why we go to school every day, and I think about what's the purpose of our being here. Is it for the curriculum? Is it for the standards? Or is it for the kids? What is the reason for school? Who is school for? Every single one of us is going to leave this earth, and we're going to leave a legacy behind us. Some of us are going to leave money. Some people leave estates. Some people leave athletic trophies. Some people will leave all kinds of things. But every person in this room is going to leave children whose lives have changed. Can anybody think of anything better than that? I really hope that Al and I both gave you the tools, the skill, and the attitude and the desire to go change children's lives. So thank you very much. For my part, it was really great being with you all. Thanks. Thanks, buddy. Give me a call later.